So good day, students. This will be a lecture about staining principles, flotation, and mounting, but mostly about staining principles. So you can use Gregorius as your reference and also Bancroft. So part of histopathologic tissue processing is staining at the end part of the tissue processing. So staining is still included in one of the tasks of a histopathologic technician or a medtech also assigned in the histopathologic department of the laboratory. So you can see here, the technologist is now applying cover slip on the slide of a stained tissue. Okay, so we want you to know what are the principles of staining, different types of stain, and the techniques in staining and the classifications. So what are the staining principles? So pag sinabing staining, it means na we are trying to make the tissue visible in microscopic examination. So how do we do that? Of course, we will use dyes that can bind or attach to the tissue component. So that will make us see anong itsura ng mga cellular contents or the type of tissue, if there are pathologic changes or certain cellular details that would allow the pathologist to help the attending physician make a certain diagnosis or examine previously tested tissue. So again, physically check for morphologic changes, identify disease presence under the microscope, and check the cellular relationship. So yun yung ine-aim na gawin ng staining procedure. So what is the principle of staining in general? So what we do is we use a certain dye or a chromogenic agent that will actually bind to the biological molecule. So pwedeng kung proteins ba, cellular lipids, or DNA, nucleic acids, doon sa tissue. So that will reveal whatever structural organization, anong type ng tissue, and yun yung sabi kanina, pathologic changes. So we have a certain chemistry behind staining. So the stain will only bind to a tissue if it's chemically attracted to it. So how does a tissue become chemically attracted to a stain or a dye? So dapat opposite charges attract, diba? So if ever may component yung cell na gives out positive ions, so the type of dye should be parang negative, yung general charge, so that dye will attach to that certain cellular content. So in specific example, the basic dyes are bound to attach to certain negatively charged or acidic in nature na components. So for example, hematoxylin, mag-bind sila doon sa DNA or RNA because of their characteristic acidic nature and negatively charged components. So yung mga acidic dyes naman will bind to the positively charged proteins like yung nandun sa cytoplasm, like yung eosin, magbabind sa cytoplasm. So that's the general na chemistry behind histopathologic staining or staining in general. So we also have different methods of staining. We have direct and indirect staining. So anong difference ng dalawa? If we say direct, as you can see in this slide, it says it involves just one dye, binds directly to the component of interest. So hindi niya kailangan ng intermediate agent. So it means the charges of the dye and the tissue interact with each other enough that the dye will attach to the tissue component. So hindi niya kailangan ng bridge for the binding to happen. So one example is in bacterial staining, nagbabind directly yung crystal violet doon sa bacterial cell wall. And methylene blue naman, nagbabind directly doon sa DNA of that a certain structure. So that's direct staining. Hematoxylin also can bind directly to the DNA in the nucleus. So pwede siya mangyari even without a bridge. So ano yung tawag natin sa bridge? That bridge is a mordant. So kailangan ng mordant in indirect staining. So for the dye and tissue complex to happen, hindi nila kaya yun based on their existing just charges lang. So they need a mordant or a bridge to help that structure bind to the dye. So hindi pwede lang na stain lang. So the mordant will actually enhance the attachment of the dye to the tissue in an essential manner. So kung walang mordant, hindi siya magbabind doon sa target tissue. So actually yung bridge can be either a mordant, pwede rin siya sometimes antibody. So in indirect staining, we have a primary agent that will bind the target. And then yung secondary agent, yun yung magbind doon sa primary agent. So mostly yung secondary agent, yun yung dye. So that dye will now produce a signal after the reaction. So ang example ng mordant is alum or iodine in hematoxylin complex, so that will make them bind better to the tissue. So kung sa immunohistochemistry naman, yung antibodies can be binding to the antigen in the slide, which is the target. Tapos yung secondary antibodies, yun yung mag-bind sa primary antibody. So para din siyang indirect in a way. So another example is gram staining, yung crystal violet, magbabind siya directly kay cellular wall of the bacteria, but it's more effective with the grams iodine, which is a mordant. So if wala yun, mawawash away yung gram-positive, yung stain ng crystal violet sa gram-positive cell wall. So that's indirect. While we also have mordant, we also have what we call na accentuator. So yung accentuator naman is parang siyang mordant in a way that will enhance the binding, pero hindi siya essential in the tissue to dye binding. So in definition, the mordant is the chemical that will link the dye and the tissue. So bridge siya. So it will enhance strength and intensity of the stain. So yung coordination between the stain and the mordant and the tissue is essential for us to see the color. But the accentuator naman is different because it will enhance or intensify the effect of the stain, pero wala siyang chemical complex na bubuuin with the dye or the tissue. Parang ganito. Ganyan lang. So it will alter the permeability of the tissue to the dye, the charge interaction, but even if hindi siya present, meron pa ring dye and tissue interaction na mangyayari, but less intensified lang. So ano ang example ng mordant? So pwedeng hematoxylin. Ang mordant niya ay alum. Iron hematoxylin, ang mordant niya ay ferric chloride. Lipid staining, pwedeng mordant niya ay osmium tetroxide. So for example naman ng accentuator, acetic acid in nuclear staining. So it will sharpen the nuclear detail by modifying the pH. So that's a difference between mordant and accentuator. So this is mordant forming bonds with the dye and forms a lake with the dye. So permanent and unaffected by other treatment yung staining. Kaya nga in gram staining, di ba, grams iodine after decolorization, hindi nawawash away if nabind talaga si crystal violet sa gram-positive cell wall. Okay. So this accentuator example again is potassium hydroxide in methylene blue. So we also have another type of or method of staining, which is progressive versus regressive staining. So pag progressive staining, the dye will bind selectively and incrementally to the tissue elements until yung desired intensity is reached. So hindi natin i-decolorize or hindi tayo mag-perform ng differentiation step after staining. Kasi hindi naman tayo mag-overflow. So the progressive staining has a controlled affinity doon sa cellular components and then i-apply lang natin siya for a limited time. And dapat yung environment like pH, concentration of the dye should be at optimum level to reach a certain intensity that you want. So hindi natin siya i-overstain. So ang mechanism of progressive staining is dapat ang inaasahan natin is yung affinity lang mismo ng stain to the tissue. And then, if na-reach na yung equilibrium for that target tissue, we will now remove the excess dye. So example niyan ay when we tried to stain myelin sheath using a Luxol or fast blue stain. So we target the lipoproteins of the myelin sheath through progressive staining. And when we want to stain the nuclear details using Mayer's hematoxylin, hindi tayo nag-differentiation method. So, ang regressive staining naman, ito yung usual na ginagawa natin, you overstain a tissue and then you use a decolorizer or wash to remove the excess stain, and then kung ano lang desired structure na na-stain after, yun lang yung kailangan natin. So, in regressive staining, we need to have an excess binding of dye to the tissue before we do a differentiation or decolorization step. So, ang purpose nan is to remove the excessive tissue bonds na na-form ng dye. So that's regressive tissue staining. So anong differentiation methods or decolorization methods na pwede natin gawin? We can do acid-base wash. We can use oxidizing agents. We can also have replacement with another dye. So ano example of regressive staining na ginagamit natin sa lab? H&E. So the hematoxylin is applied regressively followed by certain differentiation method. Pwede rin Ziehl-Neelsen if you're going to do bacterial staining. So you apply carbofixin in a regressive manner. So i-overstain tapos gagamit lang ng acid alcohol to decolorize the slide. So, again, differentiating progressive versus regressive. Pag progressive, controlled yung endpoint. Hindi kailangan decolorization. Kailangan may critical time control and mas less ang risk of tissue damage. Pag regressive staining, you overstain, kailangan ng differentiation, and hindi kailangan ng intense time control compared with progressive staining. Okay. So differential staining is when we try to use multiple stains to contrast cell components. Pwede rin microbes. So example natin ay gram staining. And we use alcohol to act as a differentiator. So when we do differential staining, we have two or more contrasting dyes. Tapos, dapat they are able to differentiate or distinguish different types of cells or structures or the components of the tissue based on their chemical properties. Pag metachromatic stain naman, we will use a single dye and it will stain the tissue components in different shades. So that's metachromasia. Ang different niya sa differential staining, we use two different dyes staining different parts of the tissue. Pag metachromatic staining, isang dye lang siya. Tapos yung tissue, iba't iba yung presentation of being stained depende kung anong structure. So that's the difference between the two. So we have different levels of metachromasia. Merong alpha, beta, and gamma. So dyan nakikita kung anong type of dye form, kung monomer, dimer, or polymer. So you can see in this illustration. So what are the factors that affect metachromasia? Pwedeng differences in dye concentration, decrease in pH, because that will also change the charges, and temperature, and if meron bang aqueous medium. So in metachromasia, the dye will change color or shade upon binding in different parts of the tissue. So example ng stain, toluidine blue, methylene blue, and azure A. So we used to dye mast cells or granules, cartilage, and mucins in tissues. So that's metachromasia. Metallic impregnation is when we use metallic salts to dye a certain part of the tissue. If that certain part of the tissue will reduce that metallic salt, magkakaroon ng plaque deposits and makita ang cellular details. So, ganito ang itsura. So, ang metallic impregnation, dapat walang sunlight exposure to avoid contamination. And we have to make sure that you will use fresh silver solutions and do not store them or stock them kasi they can explode. So we do inactivation of the metallic stain, particularly silver solution, by using NaCl or hydrochloric chloride. So we have levels of metallic impregnation when we say argyrophil and argentaphil. So pag argentaphil, it refers to the tissue components or the cells that will reduce the silver salts to metallic silver na walang reducing agent. So yung existence lang or structure mismo ng substances or ng cell structure is enough to reduce the silver. So what aids the cell or the tissue to be able to reduce the silver? Pwedeng meron silang intracellular compounds like serotonin, catecholamines, and that pag magkaroon ng contact with silver, nare-reduce siya to metallic silver, so nagkakaroon ng black deposits. So hindi kailangan ng developer. So kung meron sa inyong nagko-color ng hair, di ba, you use developer to allow the change in the dye to apply sa hair. So, ganun, hindi kailangan na ng argentaphil cells ng developer, which is different for the other type, which are the argyrophil cells. So, sila kailangan nila ng developer to be able to reduce the silver into metallic silver so that there will be black deposits na makikita sa stain or sa tissue. So that's the difference between the two. So example ay ang example ng argyrophil is Grimmelius stain. when trying to stain neuroendocrine cells or pancreatic islets or some carcinoid tumors. Tapos, example of argentaphine is when we are trying to stain the melanin in the tissue. So, ang ginagamit na stain is Fontana Mason. So, that can be reduced, the Fontana Mason stain can be reduced na by the melanocytes in the tissue. So, parang ganito. So, that's metallic impregnation. Vital staining versus intravital and supravital stain. So, pag vital staining, you selectively stain a living cell constituent. So, you introduce dye to living cells like this. So, makikita nyo siya. Example niyan ay, not this picture, but example is when we use Janus green B to stain the mitochondria. Intravital staining is you inject it to a living organism. Pwedeng example of dye is lithium carmine and India ink. So, ganito ay tsura. You inject the dye to a living organism to stain the tissue. Supravital staining is when you use the stain on a living cell outside the organism. So immediately, once the tissue or the cell is removed out of the living organism, stain mo na siya agad while it's still alive. So hindi mo siya i-introduce sa organism mismo, pero you have to capture that snapshot na buhay pa yung cell outside of the organism. So ginagawa natin yan when we try to stain reticulocytes. So immediately after blood extraction, stain mo agad siya with methylene blue or brilliant crescent blue. So that's not an in vitro staining, but like an ex vivo type of staining. Tapos intravital, in vivo. So ganito itsura ng supravital stain. So you want to check for reticulocytes. So kailangan mo siyang ma-capture immediately after blood draw. You stain the cell with a supravital stain, tapos ika-capture mo siya like this one. So, meron siyang time frame na i-follow. So, in terms naman on different types of histologic stain in its chemical components, so meron tayong basic dye, acid dye, and basic dye will bind to acidic components, and of course, acid dyes will bind to basic components. So, meron tayong natural dyes and synthetic dyes. So, depende na if saan galing yung foundation ng chemical ng dye or gi-formulate ba siya sa laboratory. So, we have what we call as chromophore and oxochrome. So, these are mostly part of a synthetic dye. So, kailangan may part of the dye that will actually provide the color to the tissue, and the other part naman will allow enhancement or intensifying of the light absorption. Kasi when a certain tissue or a certain substance impart a color, that is mostly based on how it absorbs and reflects certain light wavelengths. So, yan yung essence o ng chromophore, tapos i-intensify pa yan ng oxochrome. So, they will form the dye complex. So, walang dye kung hindi sila together. So, ganito ang parang essence of the binding of a chromophore and an oxochrome together. So, the chromophore will impart the color, and the oxochrome will augment the intensity of the light absorption of the dye. So, light wavelength of visible light is 400 to 800 nanometer. So, yun yung ini-use ng combination ng chromophore and oxochrome on how we are able to perceive the dye binding to the tissue. So, another example naman of a routine staining is H&E. So, ito yung pinaka-common na ginagamit na staining sa lab. So the hematoxylin will stain the nuclear details and the eosin will stain cytoplasmic structure and the tissue architecture as a whole. So you can see here, parang bluish yung color ng nucleus and pink ang color ng cytoplasm and the whole architecture itself. Okay, so importance of H&E is it's able to highlight the extracellular matrix, cytoplasm, and the nuclear stain. So yung staining intensity is defined by the diformulation